Sorry, just takes a minute to load.
Live.
Sorry, just takes a minute to load.
It's all right.
Okay, you should be good to go.
Great. Well, welcome everyone to this week's Talent Manager webinar. We hope you all managed to log in okay on the TM Hub. So we're delighted to have Sohail Shah here tonight, founder and MD of what must be the most joyously named indie around, King of Sunshine. As I'm sure most of you know, before setting up on his own, Sohail was BBC Entertainment Commissioner, responsible for shows like Graham Norton, QI, The Apprentice, and best of all, of course, Eurovision Song Contest. Prior to that, he'd worked as a freelance producer, series producer, exec in fashion entertainment, and was head of development at STV, ITV Studios, and October Films, as well as having advisory roles on the boards of Elstree Studios and the Edinburgh TV Festival. As a northerner who had spent many years exiled in London, Sohail took the decision to set up his new indie in Manchester for creative and ethical as much as personal reasons. I want to create opportunities for people from here to be able to work on network shows, he said. Regionality doesn't just mean regional TV, it also represents different voices from the working class and people with disabilities, visible and non-visible, who don't get a look in elsewhere. However, for all his success as a discoverer of new talent and diviner of the next hit shows, his commercial soothsaying may be a little amiss. He set up King of Sunshine just before the pandemic hit. So I'm sure we're going to hear a bit more about that. The format for this evening is that I'm going to hand over to Robin Parker in a couple of minutes, who's going to be talking to Sohail for about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll open it all up to the Q&A. So please do post your questions on the TM Hub, and when we get to the Q&A, we will try and field as many of those as possible. Right, over to you, Robin. Shall I start with a clip?
Yeah, let's introduce the clip. So, do you want to sort of set up where we are with this show? Because this is your most recent show that some people might have seen over Easter or might not have seen and be introduced to now. So do you want to just set up what we're about to see, and then Matt can show the clip, and then we'll crack on.
Sure. So this is it's our latest show, Agatha and Poirot Partners in Crime, which was a 90-minute special over the Easter holiday for ITV. And it's hosted by Richard E. Grant and features lots of famous faces: Stephen Fry, Joanna Page, and Marcus Waring, Amanda Abington, lots of big Agatha Christie fans. And it was the 100th anniversary of the first Hercule Poirot story, Mysterious Affair at Styles, this year, published in January 1921. So this was 100 years. And we marked the occasion with this doc. So we tell the story of Agatha's life alongside the creation and evolution of Hercule Poirot. And I think this clip is it's the opening of the show to give you a flavour of what it's all about and what you're going to see.
Agatha Christie is the queen of crime.
This master of storytelling.
She is on it every time, every page, every book.
And Hercule Poirot was always by her side, on page and on screen.
Hercule Poirot is a private detective.
Hercule Poirot is irresistible. He has star quality.
He has this extraordinary brain.
Always I am right. It is so invariable it startles me.
But how did they conquer the world together? With the help of some famous faces,
loosen your belts. It's going to get messy.
A host of experts.
She describes cleaning them with a bit of dental equipment and her face cream.
Weapons, wounds, trace evidence, it's all there.
Access to her family and their private archives.
I think she will always be here, and while she's always here, Poirot will be here.
And the locations that shaped Agatha's work.
This was nicknamed the best hotel west of the Ritz.
This is the story of the greatest crime duo ever.
I think Agatha Christie and Poirot will be forever.
No one else has come close. They just haven't.
Fantastic. So, welcome, Sahel. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We'll come on to talk specifically about that doc in a second, but I kind of want to just rewind to your decision in 2019 to go it alone, and how you came up with the identity of the company and your kind of initial ambitions. So, having worked in production for the best part of 20 odd years, what was your, have you been sort of yearning to launch your own company for some time, and would this happen to be, why was this the right time to suddenly go about it?
I think I always wanted to. It was a matter of when I was going to do it, and you never really know when the time is right to do that. But my kind of decision was expedited a little bit by I was in BBC commissioning. I'd just come to the end of it, sort of 3-4 months previously in entertainment. And I was thinking, what do I do now? I was consulting at the time and thinking, what do I do after commissioning? If I don't go and be a commissioner elsewhere, what should I do? And I was in London at the time, and then my dad had a heart attack. So I came back to Manchester overnight, and basically I just stayed because we didn't know what was going to happen and what that meant moving forward. And I decided to stay, and whilst I was here, it became quite evident that my brother needed a bit more care as well. He has a condition, he has progressive MS, and I kind of thought, actually, I don't really want to be in London now. I want to be here. I need to be here. So that was the decision made to move back to Manchester. And then once I'd moved back, I was already here because I never went back to London in the end. I just thought, well, what do I do? And I spoke to a few people about roles here, sort of senior roles that I thought were befitting of someone that might have been a commissioner or whatever that means. And they just seemed to be taking quite a while, and it never, even now I can't tell you exactly why, but it just didn't sit right with me. And I don't know why it didn't sit right with me, but it just didn't. And I got talking to a few people, and an opportunity came my way to think about starting my own company. And I was just convinced. It's kind of, everyone said, oh, you've run places for other people, you've come up with a load of ideas for other people, you've made other people quite a bit of money, why don't you just do it? And I thought, you know what, if I don't do it now, and everything's kind of pointing to telling me to do it, I've got a friend that I can work alongside, I've got some backing from him that can sort of like help me to start with, and indeed like carry on with, so why not? And I thought, right, do you know what, I'm just going to do it. And so I did, and then just the week of my birthday, I signed the papers, and then we set up officially. It was in November, and I was all like, "Oh yeah, cool! I got my own company, etc." So in my head, I thought, well, we started in November. I will spend November to basically Christmas just doing my trips to London and intro chats with all the channels, going, hello. You know me as maybe someone that you've worked with, or someone that has commissioned a program from you, or indeed I may have come and pitched to you at a previous place before, but this is me, this is my new company, I want to do this. This is what I'm going to be doing from now on. So I planned that for 2 months, because December's a write-off anyway, and people are winding up for Christmas, or they're very busy with Christmas programming. So I thought, well, that's fine. I can just do my intros then, and then go hell for leather mid-January, because January's a write-off in telly as well, obviously. So that was the plan, which is what I did. But then in January, the rumours, and the word started spreading about, oh, there's this thing that's going around. Could it be serious? And obviously it was. And then in February, I locked my family down, because I kind of thought, because they're all high risk anyway. So I kind of went, no, you're not going anywhere. I'm not going to go to London now either, because I think this is going to really kick off. So I'd kind of prepared myself for it. And then we got to March, and it was all official lockdown. But the month before, I kind of had a bit of a wobble, going, I can't believe I've finally done this. I've started, and I'm probably going to be over before it's even begun.
Yeah.
So
must have felt a bit make or break at that time. I mean,
it was horrendous.
I suppose thanks for being in a position where you weren't having to make decisions about staff and furloughing and all that kind of stuff, or worry about someone else firing you, but trying to get something off the ground and being eager to get going. That's a tough thing to go through at that time.
It was weird, and it's kind of, I suppose looking back on it, because once you come through it, you kind of see things differently, don't you? And it almost feels a bit romantic when you look back at something and it kind of goes in your favour. But I just remember thinking, well, I'm glad I haven't signed the deed on my office, because I did look at somewhere and I almost did. And I just thought, I'm glad I didn't, because then that would have been another expense that I would have had to honour for however long.
Yeah.
No one knew how long it was going to last. No one knew about, you can have a 3-month rent break, because this was, and it still is, it's unprecedented. We've got no frame of reference for this. So I didn't know what I was going to do. But just kind of sat down at the table where I work, which is the dining room table, and just thought, right, okay, what do I do moving forward? And then I just thought, well, I'll look at the schedule, see what there is, and then a few things kind of sparked off, and then we kind of got going. But I can tell you that now if you want, or you can ask me that later. It's up to you.
Yes, I mean, at that time there was all sorts of discussions going on, I'm sure, in television about what we can produce and what we can't, and what the nation might want to watch. And then, a lot of it was probably centered around the kind of lockdown programming. What can we do cheaply and quickly? What can we do in daytime for the a nation that's now at home and wanting information and schooling and all the rest of it. Within this, the kind of shows you've worked on, entertainment, especially as factual, fact tent, I suppose you must have a sense that there'd be a role for that, because scripted definitely wasn't going to be made for a while, and even the soaps were looking quite precarious for a while. So did you feel at least there'll be stuff in this genre that I can bring to because the name King of Sunshine and the kind of shows you've done suggests a kind of desire for feel good television or uplifting television. Do you see that as kind of ethos?
Yeah, it's what it's the kind of stuff that I like watching, and it's the kind of stuff I like making. And I think one kind of has always fed into the other. It's the kind of stuff that I like writing, because I know that I can make it. And it's almost, I think anyway, personally, I am more interested in shows that I would want to watch. I probably put more of myself into it, and I can probably bring more to it. And yeah, I think I didn't really take it as seriously until the rumours. Well, no, actually, no, I did. But it's almost like I was in a bit of denial, that thinking, I've still got The Apprentice to look forward to, and Strictly is going to be fine, and this, that, and the other. But actually, it didn't take me very long to think, actually, I've worked on those shows. I know how they're put together. How in the hell are they ever happen? Because of the nature of what they are. You have to go from A to B. You have to work with X many people. The crew have to go out. How is that going to happen? And indeed, they kind of Strictly came on because it was so far down the year. But obviously, The Apprentice didn't happen last year. And then as a knock-on effect, You're Fired didn't happen either. So that's another whole, because no one knew what was going on with studios. No one knew anything really. So in my head, I thought, right, we do need something uplifting. We do need something that people are going to watch. I don't think anybody particularly wanted to watch something that was shot on Zoom all the time. I think tech needed to adapt, and the industry was very quick to adapt to it and innovate as well, which I think it deserves credit for. I think now, we're so disposable with our viewing habits. We kind of go, oh yeah, that was fine, and then we kind of move on. But actually, if you think about how things didn't fall away and things did happen at the right time, it kind of, I was very worried that I wouldn't get anything away if it was all shot on Zoom. So I thought, what can I do that doesn't have any kind of filming like that involved? And I just looked at the ITV, I say just like it was that simple, but what I did do was look at the schedules, and I was speaking to Joe Mace at ITV, who's Ace, and I just kind of said, well, you've got lots of detective shows on ITV. That's the majority of where they are actually when you look at them. And you have this massive catalogue on ITV3 as well, which is predominantly detective shows. how about a public vote, so the people are actually involved, on who their favourite detective is? I mean, it's as simple as that. Britain's favourite detective. We'll come up with a list. People can vote on who they want as their number one, as their top 25, leading to a number one, and then we do the reveal of who they are, and it's all archived behind the scenes, pre-shot interviews from other programs, and then indeed these wonderful clips of the shows. And there you go. That's the idea. Would you like it? And at that time, there were so many holes in the schedule. They kind of went, we love that. We'll have that, and also we'll have a wraparound. And then throughout the week leading up to the actual show itself, which was a 2-hour top 25, they had a different detective each night. So it kind of like gave the schedule a bit of a zhuzh as well.
It justifies the repeats. Yeah,
absolutely. I think so. Yeah. It's a wonderful symbiosis of creation and origination.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a sense of necessity being the mother of invention. You kind of felt your way through that. Was that the kind of first proper commissioner conversations you were happening after lockdown was starting to happen and the pandemic was identified, as opposed to your very early ones back in November? Was it sort of Joe, through a pre-existing relationship, you went to first? Did you identify ITV essentially as?
I was already speaking to everyone, actually, just to say hi, and I had a few ideas in with a few people. BBC, obviously, because that's my old department, so it'd be silly not to be in there. Channel 4 and with ITV, and I was talking to 5 as well. Can't remember what I did. Actually, a few I remember. There was one that was really good. I still think it's really good. It didn't happen, obviously, but I mean, you can't have everything. But it was very much based on being out and about, and one of them was an international show, which we'd had all planned out. We had the route planned and how it would work and all the modes of transport, and obviously that couldn't happen. So I think overnight, probably without exaggeration, I think overnight 50% of the ideas I had with people just went, if not more actually, just vanished. And then the others kind of got put on hold, because, to be fair to every commissioner, if you don't even know what's happening tomorrow with your own industry, you're not about to turn around to me, relatively newbie as well, and go, oh, do you know what, Sale? Yeah, we do want that programme. I mean, it's not going to happen. And I think everyone was very aware that even if you were into a conversation about a commission that you've been talking about a month being lit, all of that changed and all of that stopped. I mean, if something's going to bring EastEnders and Coronation Street to a halt and take them off air, I mean, it's serious. So I had those conversations, and that was sort of at the forefront of my mind about what we could do. We got that one away, and then I got another commission with Channel 5, and by then I think we were a little bit further. Well, we were further into the pandemic, but everything still was closed. And us being based in Manchester as well, because I always forget that it's different. It has been different around the country, England, Wales, and Scotland and Ireland, particularly. And it just feels like, for me, the Manchester bubble, they put us into full lockdown the day before Eid last year, and ironically, Ramadan's just started, so it's going to be Eid again in 4 weeks. So essentially, Manchester has been in lockdown for a lunar year completely. So we couldn't do anything at all, like no filming. You could travel for work, but that was further down the line. So it was like, what do we do? So we got a little bit into it. It was an archive show for Channel 5, and by then the tech had sort of, people were used to watching Zoom stuff. I didn't really want to film on Zoom because I just think it does look a little bit different. So we ended up shooting on HD phones, and actually when that's graded, and I'm kind of doing myself out of using a cameraman here, but you know what I mean, it's more than acceptable, much more than Zoom quality for an interview, because this was like talking head show. And again, we'd never done it before, but there are ways and means, an iPhone or an Android phone on a tripod framed right, you're asking the questions via a computer or via a speaker, and you get the response back, get that fed into the edit, and somehow it kind of comes together. So we did that as well with a Channel 5 show about celeb breakups. And then when after Detective went out, we got the commission for Agatha, which was mental because, and now here's me saying that, and it goes against everything I've just said. But by then we were out filming because even though it was made in lockdown, none of it was shot in Manchester. It's all over the rest of the UK, which was a bit more open. And there were those 2 weeks where everything was opened up again, apart from here, and everyone went mad, going, "Oh my God, I can go here and I can meet this person and all that." And we literally did loads of our filming in that 2-week period. So all of Agatha, including the interviews, because they're not in studios, they're in country clubs and all that. Every single bit of Agatha is filmed on location, obviously socially distanced and with all those COVID protocols, which is interesting as well, and kind of not hard to get your head around. But when it's something you've not done before, especially for me, because I've not done it before, it was I wouldn't say weird, but it was certainly a different way of working. But now that's the norm, and actually I think that will probably continue for quite a while because we don't know what's going to happen yet. And now we've got those protocols in place and we know they work. Then I think it would be foolhardy to just kind of go, well, done now.
But in putting that together, were you kind of executing this from home?
Yeah, right. Yeah. My office. I mean, I know it looks like a great starry background, but believe me, this is just a room. Everything was happening from the dining room table. Yeah. So
you talk a bit about putting the crews together for these shows, particularly for that one, where you're having to, get a good director and AP and whoever else to do these interviews and kind of trust them to use the locations and so on at a time with those sorts of restrictions. Particularly when you're setting up in Manchester, wanting to be a Manchester interview, you can't necessarily use the city and use the local crew.
Yeah, so with Favourite Detective, which was first, obviously there was no filming involved in that. It was all archive and edit. So that was again, I was going to say that wasn't done remotely. That was all done remotely, but using the whole crew from the north. So I had someone in Leeds, somebody in Urmston, me at home in Salford, and then the facilities provided by Doc 10, where the online was done. And Sheridan Smith did the voiceover down. She did it in person, then she did some of it down the line. So that was all fine. And then with Agatha, like you say, because that was all location stuff, that couldn't be shot in. Well, none of that was shot here. So I needed people kind of all over. So we had, I had the same archive producer, Camilla, who's brilliant, and the same producer, Sue, for Favourite Detective, who's great. And we got a PD from London, Toby, who I got a recommendation for. So I was going to say I met with him. I've never met Toby. I spoke to him on the phone and on Zoom and everything, got him. He had an AP that he'd worked with who I thought was brilliant as well, Rudy. And then we had, again, facilities and edit provided by Doc 10. So as with most things that are happening at the moment, the editors are in their houses with the setup that they have from whichever agency or facilities house that they're using. And then the producers and the edit producers are at home. And then they're kind of like logging in together on the system and working as if they're next to each other in an edit, or maybe they're doing their notes and sending them through. So it's a new way of doing. I mean, some would say that's how old school people do it anyway. They go, "Oh, here's my script, you're going to do it." I'm not like that. I like the fact that everyone's together, and I love being part of a team. And I think a lot of people are missing that. But I think what this pandemic has shown is that when you can still have a little bit of banter and you can have your team Zooms and everything like that. I was very keen that everyone was always chatting on Zoom, so you don't feel like you're working in a silo and you're just completely away from everybody else. Because I don't think you can work that way. I don't think anybody should work that way, but I really don't think you can. And especially on something like this that has location work and requires chats about how the day has gone and what you might want to get out of the next filming day, like talking about how rough cuts are going, all that. You can't do that independently. You have to be talking constantly. So the rough cuts would happen in the day, then I'd get sent a link at home. So I'd watch it on this computer, make my notes, feed them back. They'd get the notes, we'd chat, then there'd be, how you would do an edit, but all kind of one step removed, rather than everyone being in the room just going, okay, that needs doing, let's try that. You can't really do that. So it does take longer. it is more difficult. It's a little bit more stilted, but I think once you find a groove with the team and you have the right people doing the work as well, I think it can become easier. And it was certainly easier by the end. I've never done a voiceover down the line via Zoom before. Normally you do it in a suite, but I mean, you know, again, that's great. You've got Rich D. Grant in a voiceover studio, and he was in Cheltenham somewhere, and then I was in a sanitized edit suite in Dock 10 going through the one-way system, so I didn't see anybody because I have to shield basically because of my family. And then just sat in this very clean, it smelled very, very clean, there was hand sanitizer and everything everywhere, with my computer in front of me, directing Richard via my computer, and then hearing the feedback through the player on the desk. So it's interesting, but it does take longer, but it is doable because obviously it went out a couple of weeks ago, so we delivered something worth watching, I hope.
And you know, the other side of running a company and exec producing is the managerial side of things. You know, especially at a time when people are working separately and perhaps have their own personal issues and things might take them away from work and so on. How do you approach, you know, keeping the the sort of happy and communication lines open away from just, you know, making the show? You know, if you were to say, you'd be having a cup of coffee and saying, oh, how is everything going at home? Well, it's very hard, very hard, as we all know, to do these sort of things remotely. But you do have a duty to manage those teams. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, hopefully anyway, someone may say different, but hopefully anyone who's worked with me or knows me knows that I like a chat, and I always want to check in on people and see how they're doing, because as much as this is hugely important to me, because of course it is, I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't, I also realize, because of my own family setup, more than anything, even more so now, you get up, I've said this before, you get up in the morning and then you go to bed at the end of the day, and hopefully in between you've done a bit of work, you've had a bit of a laugh, you've hopefully had sort of been able to nurture some relationships, and if you've got through the day and done it however you've done it, then you've done a good job, and then you do the next one. I'm really not a person that thinks, oh my God, this show, I don't ever expect anybody to be in an office. Even when before pandemic, I never was the boss that said, oh, they're leaving at 6 o'clock. It's like, well, that's a bit early. It's like, if you've done all your work and you're happy with it, and you should, and I've had a look at it, I think it's great. You can go home at 3:30 if you want. If you've done everything, like, why would I expect you to stay here till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night? And ditto, when we are all at work and it is quite busy and it is quite stressful, then I want people to sort of like carry on chatting and Zoom drinks, and just, if you want to call me, I've always got this in my hand. Everybody knows I always have. And I tweet a lot as well. So everyone knows that if I'm bored or, I'm saying stuff, always available. He's just sent another tweet. So I'm more than happy to talk to people. And actually, I think productivity, as much as everyone's been down and it's been a horrendously emotional year, because it really has, I think productivity goes up when people know that they have got time to do what they need to do. I mean, my schedule is determined by what goes on in the house. I put everything around, my brother's appointments, dad's appointments, mum's appointments, and stuff for myself as well. I've got to have some time for myself. And with those things, and I do all the work stuff around it, sometimes the work stuff comes first because it absolutely should do and it needs to. Sometimes the family comes first because it absolutely should do and it needs to. So marrying those two things together, I think some people think, oh no, I can't have one or the other. I think we're told and we're made to feel like you can't have a life if you work in television. And that really annoys me. It always has, because you absolutely can have a life in TV, and you need a life in TV, because if you don't, all you do is, you work in television, you hang out with people who work in television, you go on holiday with people who work in television, you just talk about television. I mean, I don't mind the talking about TV, but I quite like that. But without any disrespect to anyone that I have worked with, I don't need to see you 24 hours a day. I mean, there's a lot of people who get together and all that in TV, and it's fine, but I think to enjoy what you do, you need a break from it. And I think to be the best at what you do, you need to be able to say, all right, I'm going to put all my concentration on this, but I do need a bit of time to do, X, or I need to go
here. And absolutely, I encourage that. It's, you know, and people, you know, especially the way things are in lockdown, lots of people have developed conditions, people's situations have changed, you know, mental health has suffered massively. So if I can help people get through that, I know that they will do a really good job on the stuff that I've asked them to do, because I know them, and also I'd like to think that I've hired them because I know that they will do a good job. And my thanks for that is not only just paying the wages, it's being able to say, no, if you need a couple of hours to go and do something, go and do it, because I know when you've had that, you'll come back and you'll totally smash it, and that edit will be fine, or, you know, that treatment will be done, or whatever like that. Because I think you have to work that, and that's not me being, oh, he's such a nice guy. I think that's just how it should be.
Yeah. It's interesting.
We've all worked for places that aren't like that, and I think that's probably why I'm so passionate that it should be like that, because I don't think I've ever been so unhappy rather, in a work environment when it's been like that, rather than being able to do what you can do, because this industry isn't very forgiving and it's not very kind. We all know that. So
do you think
it can be a little bit kinder? That's good.
Do you think generally that's been a bit of a byproduct of the past year? And people talk about the opportunities to physically network, of course, those, you know, in terms of career progression and in terms of developing ideas and so on, that's clearly, you know, something that suffers when you can't socialize or have, you know, networking events and so on. But by the same token, you know, we are in a position now where people, hopefully, in this past year, are generally more understanding of personal circumstances, of personal time, and so on. Clearly, it sounds like that's within the ethos of your company, but generally within the industry, do you think we'll come out of this with some hopefully more positive new habits? Are you optimistic?
Do you know what? I would be, yeah, because I was going to sound really pessimistic. Yes, no, I do. But I would be so gutted. I'd be so gutted if we just whipped back to the way things were before the pandemic kicked in, and those habits start creeping in again, where, you know, those, and generally it's larger companies. That's the irony that always gets me. It's not like startups or, you know, smaller indies. It generally, that kind of behavior tends to be larger places, and I've never understood why that is, because they're the ones with the infrastructure where that kind of behavior doesn't need to happen. But it, in my experience, it always has been that way. I would hope that we come out of this, well, hopefully we come out of this, but we come out of it with more compassion towards each other, more of an understanding of what people need, and just with more systems in place. You know, all the broadcasters and the big indies, they love a system, don't they? And they always go, oh God. But actually, if this means that there's a new system in place for people to feel better and feel more secure about what they do, and more valued about what they do, then that I'm all for. But yeah, I'd be devastated if it went back to the way things were before, because it really shouldn't. It really can't. And I think as well, during the pandemic, I mean, that's one side of it with the virus. But actually, if you think about what's happened this year with like Black Lives Matter and Me Too, just previous to that, all these big, I hate the word movements, but, you know, these kind of, I don't know how you describe it, it's not a movement, but you know what I mean. These massive events have happened that have caused such outrage and have galvanized such sort of like a confidence in people to be able to say that is wrong, or we're not going to put up with that. And you know, nor should they for any of that. It's horrendous that it's gone on for so long. So if all of these issues have been brought to the fore, it's all well and good going, oh yeah, no, that's terrible. Oh yeah, no, I totally get that. And then doing jack shit about it. That's just horrendous. And people absolutely should be taken to task over it. So, you know, it is a case of, it sounds like I'm on a soapbox now, I'm not, but it's not enough to just talk the talk anymore. It really isn't. So I think people need to put their money where their mouth is and prove that they believe what is being said, and actually what is being said by the wider production community, because a lot of people are falling through the cracks. A lot of people, sadly, I don't think are going to return to the industry when the pandemic is over, because they might not want to, but also, like, you know, people need to earn money. They've got lives, they've got families, they've got bills and responsibilities they have to like look after. So, you know, who knows? But yeah, I would hope things would change for the better. And that said, I think they will. I think they will.
Good. But as a new producer, kind of, what, you know, you've landed with a number of commissions, which I'm sure has given you you know, confidence and a good sort of grounding to get things started, but under quite extreme conditions where perhaps in crewing up and in thinking about how you bring people up and nurture them, or also give breaks to people who don't always get, you know, the breaks. Has that been harder because you've had to be quite fleet of foot on these commissions and perhaps turn to people you know, or people recommendations from people you know? Because you know, let say at the start you have a stated ambition to, you know, be diverse, be class diverse, and you know, not just rely on the same old faces and crews, and sort of, you know, do your bit within the industry. Is that hard under such circumstances? Have you managed to sort of give some breaks to people within your commission so far?
I have, but not as much as I would have liked to have done, simply, as you said, because of the fact that it's all a bit of a microcosm at the moment, and it's hard to have that thing whereby, because normally, if, like you say, if there was a networking event at Media City, I mean, that's like a stone's throw from my house. I'd be there straight away and I'd get to meet loads and loads of people all at once. I mean, I get speculative, put my teeth in, CVs all the time. And I always like respond as much as I can and try and have a chat with as many people as I can. But I suppose particularly with the very first one, with Favourite Detective, it happened so quickly and there was a need for it so quickly. So my kind of joy at getting the first commission was, I mean I'm still chuffed now, but it was kind of tempered with, oh God, well, who's going to make it? Because I can't go out and meet a load of people. So I did call someone that I knew, but I know that he is a very good producer. He's Manchester based. I know he could do the job, and he would be perfect for it. And he would know more people that I necessarily wouldn't have known, having been away for so long, that he could say, have you worked with XYZ? And I trust Joel implicitly. So we did that show, and then so on the first one, I knew 2 people, but then the PM and coordinator I'd not worked with, so that was good. And then I worked with an AP whose name I'd known for years, because we have lots of mutual friends that I'd always wanted to work with that I hadn't. And then she came on board, so we got Yvette, and she was great. And then and Camilla, the archive producer, who is literally like the queen of archive. She's known as the queen of archive. I've known about her for years and always thought she's always busy. She's never going to be available, and she's from the north as well, so that's great. And we got Camilla as well. So to me, it wasn't newbies in the industry that I got to use on that show, but there were new people to me that got to broaden my pool of people. And then we sort of, a few of them stayed on to do other things, and then brought with them and recommended new people that were new that I did get a chance to bring on. So we got a new AP on Agatha, Rudy, who was brilliant, and Alici was a researcher from New Zealand originally, and we got her on Celeb Breakups, and then she did Agatha as well. So I think when things open up a bit more, I absolutely will be looking to get more new people in, because you know, like I said, I get CVs and I would love to have chats with people, more like proper ones as well. Like Zoom's good, but I'd love to meet people like for real, and see what they might be right for if we get God willing, if we get some more commissions away.
Yeah. And in this time, you know, you have largely been archive based. I mean, even with the Agatha piece, obviously that still relies on a lot of ITV great clips of Poirot episodes and clips of Agatha as well. There's always a danger that as a producer that one gets pigeonholed, and you've worked on a wide variety of shows. And also, I suppose these are, I mean, I'm sure the Agatha ultimately didn't come cheap because of the locations and so on, but some of the shows you made would have been made to quite tight tariffs, and broadcasters will know you can deliver to those tight tariffs. And as ever, you know, the next commission, will you be able to bring that in for a similar amount or cheaper, and so on. In terms of the ambitions for perhaps the shows you've had to kind of park, is it hard for you thinking of the next step and how we're going to get to that while we are still going through obviously a bit of an uncertain up and down time, and sort of how much you kind of want to broaden what King of Sunshine does, and if so, into what sort of areas?
So that stuff I was saying before, like the 50% of the ideas that fell away because of the pandemic, I still think, and not all of them, but some of them are really good ideas. A couple of them, particularly, there's two that I am like obsessed with, like totally obsessed with. So they will be being brought out the minute travel opens up again, and they will not be. They won't be cheap shows to make. They won't be like super duper expensive. I have to say that because they won't get commissioned otherwise. But they, yeah, they won't be cheap shows because logistically they can't be, because there's a lot of people involved. There are locations involved, and there will be things involved in it. Because formatted shows, like proper formats, they can't really be made on quick turnaround archive budget shows, because by definition, if they could, you would be watching formats all the time, but you're not. You're watching archive shows because they're the only things that can be made. So I really want to get into, because you know that's my background. I've done tons of formatted shows as a producer and as a commissioner. So I enjoy watching those. So I'd love to do those. I have a couple of things in at the minute which I'm waiting to hear on. So we'll see, which are like lifestyle shows with a network that I've never worked with before. So that's quite good. And I think as well, the big thing for me is in 21, I forgot what year we were then, 2021, I would like to get, I mean, I'm really chuffed. I'm really proud that we've had 5 commissions in the first year. They were all singles, which is lovely and it's great. I'd love to get a series away this year. I really want to get a series, because it's just a lovely thing to say, we've got X amount of episodes of something in production. I can't wait to say that. And also with a series, if it's good, then chances are, once you've done a great one-off, a one-off is lovely and you might get plaudits for it. But with the series, if it's good, there's always the option that they might go, oh, Sahil, do you want to do a series too? And I'll be like, my God, do I? Yes, I do. So yeah, I want to get a series away. And I think I wouldn't mind venturing into the scripted space as well. So I am thinking about doing that, because I did a little bit as commissioner for BBC Three. I did a few scripted comedies, and I, you know, devour drama like everybody does. Really, I love it. So I'd love to do that. How, we'll see. I've got a few thoughts, but yeah, I do you know what? This sounds really stupid, but I just want to do stuff that I'm going to enjoy and that I really want to watch, and work with people that I think could do a really good job, and just have like a nice atmosphere around me. I mean, you know, I'm obviously a lot older than I was when I first started out in this industry, and I think when I started, you come into it really bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, full of hope and everything. And not to say that that isn't how it is, but I think it was a different time then as well, and there were more avenues of doing different kinds of programming. Whereas it seems to me now that people starting, like you were talking about being pigeonholed earlier, I completely agree. I find it really weird when you see job commercials, for example, when they're posted, they go looking for, even at researcher level, looking for a researcher or an AP. You need to have credits on something like Big Brother, The Circle, blah, 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 and then they reel off all these types of shows, thinking that if you've done those shows before, then you can come and work on this, rather than, do you know what, you could learn your craft on this and then, you know, like grow and all that. I don't think you need, I mean, ideally, someone would have an idea of how to do something like that, but just because they haven't done it before doesn't mean that they can't do it. I mean, everyone starts somewhere, as far as I'm concerned, but I think I've always been very conscious of that, which is why I was just saying this to somebody earlier on today, actually, and I'm not sure why I know the answer. Either it was a conscious decision or I'm just not that good, I don't know. But even throughout my career, until I got to commissioner, I've never done a second series of anything. Because apart from one thing with a 4-year gap in between, because I wanted to go back, because I always thought, I've done that, I've learned everything I want to do, I've really enjoyed it, I can move on, I can take those skills and take it to another show, because I've got so many friends and I know so many people, and then they say to me, oh my God, I'm going back again, doing my 6th year or 7th year of X show. And to me, that's just like, oh my God, why would you want to as well, you know? I mean, depending on what it is, and I'm not judging on people who do that. I personally couldn't do it. I've never wanted to. So yeah, I want to do a bit of, and I have that kind of train of thought with the company as well. I want to do something that's fun. I want to do factual entertainment and specialist factual shows, which I know I can do, but what shape they take, whether they could be short form series or multi-episodic or one-offs, I'm more than happy. but I'd like to do a bit of scripted as well. Yeah, I'd like to try that.
And you see, King of Sunshine as a place where people can learn their craft or develop their fledgling career on a show, and if they move on and get something else, then you've played a part in that. You're not looking for lifers by the sound of it. You kind of want to keep the company fairly small, but work with a nice pool of freelancers in general.
Well, ideally, the company would be bloody massive, and then I'd have loads and loads of shows in production, and then everyone could come and work there. But yeah, it's like if someone worked on a show for me at whatever level, and then they were really good, and then something else came along, and then I got a chance to say, "You've done that. Would you want to come and work on this?" And they said, "Yeah." I'd be over the moon, because that's lovely. Because there was one exec when I started who took a chance on me. Because I wasn't getting the breaks at all. It was like, oh yeah, he's a runner, that's it. And then I'm going to embarrass him now, Barry Ryan, who I absolutely adore. Barry came along, and I was a runner on a show, and I've been a runner on the show for quite a while now. And he came to be the new exec on it, and straight away, I think within 2 weeks, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, he said to me, he goes, you can do more than this. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I was quite young. I was like, okay, great. And then the show that we were doing, it was Planet Pop for T4. It kind of went from I think it was 10 minutes a week, and it went to a full half hour. And that's a lot of content to suddenly go from that to that. And the team didn't necessarily grow that much. I think they added 2 people for an extra 3 times the length. And Barry made me a researcher instantly, and my responsibility went through the roof. And for him to take that chance on me, I've never ever forgotten it. I love him. And if I can do that for somebody else as well, I'd love that, because it gives you the confidence. Because, I think it's a personality builder as well. I was very, very meek, and I was very shy. I mean, I'm still quite shy now, but I was very shy then. I didn't really speak a lot. But then he just kind of thought, well, no, you can do this. And when you get a chance to do something and you do it well, and luckily if you enjoy it, it's brilliant, because then it makes you go, do you know what, I am going to give this a go, and maybe I'll suggest something else as well, and then maybe they'll like that, and if they do, then all that stuff, and you get more and more experience. And I think when you're more confident in yourself and you're more accomplished and you've got those skills, you can then have enough confidence in yourself to say, I've done everything I can here now, maybe I should try somewhere else. Because you're never gonna, there is that danger of being comfortable. I mean, everyone's got bills, and I totally understand why people don't want to move. But as well, I mean, socioeconomic reasons as well. If you were in London, unless you've got a rich family, well, never mind London, even Manchester, if you weren't living with your family in those early days where you could save up a bit, I really don't know how people can get a break in the industry at the moment. It's so difficult anyway. And, the money's not great. And we've not all got rich parents. We've not all got, second homes that you can go and stay in because no one's in there at the moment. And then that's your base that you're not paying for. People have bills to pay, and we have lives and stuff. So if I can help with that, I'd love that. I'd love it.
Okay, there's a few questions coming in through the hub about talent and about, new talent and other roles. One being, this is from Claire Sturgis. Can you speak as to what you're looking for in new directing talent, and under what circumstances you would hire emerging rather than experienced directors?
Is that for scripted, Claire, or for non-scripted? Does it say on the
It doesn't actually say. I think in general. I think obviously you're working on scripted currently.
If someone sent me a CV and I had a documentary that needed a director, particularly, and also take heart in the fact that certain commissions are absolutely dedicated only for emerging directors, so don't think that no one's ever going to see your stuff, and you should always look out for those. So I'm very keen on those kind of things. But in answer to the question, if I had a show that needed several directors, I absolutely wouldn't have any hesitation hiring someone that was an emerging director. If they could show me a show reel that they had of stuff that they'd done and I thought it was good, absolutely I'd take a punt on someone. It'd be weird not to.
Do you think the commissioners and the broadcasters are getting behind that?
Again, I think
names.
I think it depends on who you speak to. I think it depends on what channel you speak to. I think it depends on what commissioner you have, the rapport you have with the commissioner. Because actually, part of my job as an MD is convincing not only convincing them to commission our show, but convincing them that we have the right talent, because they might not have done something for ITV before. Yeah. But if I know that this person is absolutely, or or whomever, I just said ITV because that's who it's for. But if I can convince them that this is the person that I want on the show, because I know that they can do the job and they will provide footage that is beautiful and will convey the story that needs to be told and do it in a way that is suitable for your audience, for that channel's audience, I will do my absolute best to get that person over the line. And that's about as much as I can do. Which is absolutely my responsibility. I'm more than happy to do it. If they turn around and go, we absolutely don't want that person, I would say, okay, but you need to give me a reason why, because actually considering there's this initiative and we want this person and we want people from this background, blah, blah, unless there is a really, really great reason that they don't want that person, really, they shouldn't be in a position to say that. Conversely, they also shouldn't be saying this person has done XYZ, so you need to use that person, just because they've used them before, because you don't get any I don't think you get any creativity. And also I don't really like being, this is me sounding snobby now, but I don't like being told who to use. I just don't, and I don't think anybody does.
Are there particular roles that you're finding you've noticed are harder to fill than others? Think about it from your time as a commissioner and exec producer, as much as your current position as an MD. Are there some levels where it's tougher?
I think because, well, for personally, not for me, but there always seems to be, because that's what the production managers and the head of production is for. They always have real trouble getting coordinators, I've noticed. They're like worth their weight in gold. So I can't really speak to how you get a good coordinator, because it's not really my thing. But if you are one, send your CV, because I think we're always short of coordinators. But I think there's a plethora of good people across every role. Personally, I think what I find there's a shortage of is, because I said, I get a lot of CVs. There is a lot. I mean, there's a real shortage of CVs coming to me at sort of senior PD, SP level, particularly SP level, from Black and Asian people. And I don't think I've had one CV from anybody with a disability. Not that they go, look at my CV, I'm disabled. I don't mean that, but it kind of makes me go, there must be people out there that work in the industry that are reflective of the population. So how have they, how are they not getting roles in the industry, and how come I've not heard of them? So I'd love to hear from that. I mean, I was very keen to get as much diversity into my programs as possible. So I think we did that and also on programs that don't, everyone always thinks that it can only be a diverse person behind the camera if it's a program about a diverse subject like Eid or arranged marriage, or the usual thing that they put together in a season, because they're always bunched together in a season. They're never they're never just standalone shows. They're always part of a month-long thing, so you can really get the the full knowledge of it and then forget about it for the rest of the year. So we got a commission at Christmas for the George Michael story. And I was adamant that I wanted a certain person, and I got that person, and she's amazing. I got Marina Warsama, and Marina is so accomplished and so fantastic, and can just do musical biographies to amazing. And she did that, and it's not because and George Michael, if anyone didn't know, is not Black. Was not Black. So lo and behold, look, she can tell a story that's not directly related about a Black person, but she was the best person, and she's who I wanted to make the show, and she made an absolutely fantastic show. And celeb booking isn't really an area where you think diversity is represented, but we had Susan Benito doing our celeb booking on Agatha, and Susan is like the best. She is absolutely the best in the business. She's amazing, and moreover, she's just a real, both of them, Marina and Susan, are just a joy to work with, and I want to work with nice people. So if you're nice, send me a CV. If you're not,
also, yeah,
well, you can anyway, but I prefer it if you were nice.
But clearly the booking on Agatha, the names you got was very impressive, particularly at that time. When some people you might have wanted might have been hesitant to travel, or perhaps in a difficult environment themselves, not willing to.
And I think we might have got the odd, I won't say who it was because it was quite a big person, but we might have got one or two other super duper names alongside the super duper names that we did have. And the only reason we didn't wasn't because they didn't want to do it, it's because of COVID and they were shielding and they didn't even want to take the risk of doing it at a distance. So that's completely understandable. But you know, and we got an Oscar nominee as a host. So that, I mean, just testament to how amazing Susan is, because she's literally the best.
One other thing that come up in terms of employment is job sharing. Is that something that you'd consider if there's a flexibility as an employer?
Absolutely, and I'm going to do a plug now. I'm very proud, I'm very honoured that they asked me to be, but I'm on the board of Share My Telly Job, which is run by Natalie and Lou, and they advocate for flexible working in the industry for people who have childcare issues, people who have caring issues, mums who want to go back to work, people who only want to work certain days of the week because they have other responsibilities. Because as I was saying before about productivity goes up when people know that they've got time to do what they need to do, but also have a job to do in a certain amount of time. So they asked me to be on the board of that. I'm totally for that, you know, my situation included. So I was very proud that on the George Michael show that we did, and at the same time we were making a show about Cliff Richard, all the musical greats, our production management was a job share between two mums, Lindsay and Amy, who are brilliant. They are unbelievable at their job. They're brilliant mums, and they could be. And what I like is the fact that they are brilliant mums and that they are brilliant production managers. And my shows were done because of their brilliance, and they happily job share. Not one thing is forgotten, not one thing falls by the wayside. They do their job because they know how to do their job. And I'm not so arrogant as to go, oh, well, does this need doing? Because they know what they're doing. And there are loads of people in that situation, people who might want to work a shorter week, people who have other responsibilities. You might even just want to do 2 days a week because, you know, the rest of the time, you know, I've got a mate who's writing a book, so he's gone down to 3 days a week. Buy it when it comes out, by the way, because he probably needs the cash. But you know, yeah, if someone wants to job share, and that isn't just for production management, by the way, because Natalie and Lou are a very good edit producing pair as well, because edit producing is another thing that can be job shared. I haven't ever worked with a job share in a PD role, so I can't say, oh yeah, I'd be happy with that, because I'm not quite sure how that would work. I'm sure it probably did if you put thought into it. But yes, no, absolutely, I'm open to job sharing completely.
Okay, and final one for me, which is
sorry, I just jump in there? Robbie, can I just jump in? One is I'm slightly conscious about the time.
And sorry, also, I'm talking too much.
That's no, not at all. But also, that's a perfectly you've teed up a plug for next week, because we do quite a lot with Share My Telly Job, and they're doing a takeover of the hub. So we've got a whole lot of events and things that they're going to be doing. The webinar, we've got polls, we've got various discussion things, and so on. And they are.
Oh, I love a poll.
Michelle and Rowan as well, who are the other brilliant women running that, are doing fantastic work. So I've got a quick question, because I was really interested in you talking about the need to get away from the TV bubble, and it reminded me of something that Janet Street Porter once said about going to the Edinburgh Festival, and you know, the whole of the London crew go up to the Edinburgh Festival where there's all this stuff going on. They sit in a conference hall, you know, discussing. Never leaving the conference hall and discussing where the next ideas come from, and then they'll get back and go and sort of never leave this bubble. I mean, what are your tips as someone who's got a real track record in coming up with program ideas and now running a company where that's the kind of lifeblood? Do you have any particular tips for people in development, things that kind of your kind of signature ways to try and come up with new ideas or a new format?
Oh. God, I wouldn't be so arrogant as to tell people how to do development, but I can say what I kind of do. As much as I always say, oh, you know, don't spend your life on a computer, you'll hurt your eyes, this, that, and the other. I'm on mine and I'm on my phone all the time, and I read anything that I see, like magazine. I read every kind of newspaper. I look at every kind of website, and that might sound like boring, but actually, and you know, Robin, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I'm on Twitter a lot. People generally are interesting, and I think even a little snapshot of anything, and it literally could be a tweet from someone that you've never heard of before, but they say something that might be interesting. I always look at people's profiles. I always go and do, like, I'm a proper internet stalker. I don't mean that in a bad way, but if I see a name, I'll go and do a load of research on it. I literally did it this morning with this thing that I saw. So this is fresh from the half the press, and actually, just I think people's stories. And when I say stories, it can be their life story, it can be what they're doing, it can be where they've come from. There's always like a little kernel of something about everyone, I think, that is interesting. And if it resonates with you, it can sort of like kick off an idea. If you respond to something, chances are someone that you know, someone that you like, someone like-minded to you will probably respond to it as well. So if you've got a gut feeling that, oh, that might be interesting, absolutely dig into it. You know, and if it's something frivolous, it doesn't matter. Because there's a lot of poo-pooing about, well, particularly about stuff that I do, but everyone's like, oh, that's a bit celebrity, that's a bit show busy. So what? Loads of people watch celebrity shows and loads of people watch show busy shows. And it's really arrogant to think that people only watch one kind of TV. You might not think that I watch loads of factual stuff, but I mean, I do. And I've done a wildlife doc. Everyone goes, oh yeah, but that was Celeb Animals on Sky One. Yes, it was. But after that, which was a countdown show, I did do a wildlife doc and that had proper animals in it. So, you know, all of us do different kinds of things. So if you've got an interest in something, absolutely like follow up on it. And in terms of where to get those ideas from, I think it's as simple as just, I mean, it's quite difficult at the moment to chat to people because you're at home, but scour the net, look at websites, follow people's, and actually Instagram is a bloody brilliant place to find new talent and to see what, I haven't succumbed to TikTok yet because there's something very sad in my mind about a 44-year-old trying to do a TikTok. I mean, there are 44-year-olds doing it, but I'm not one of them. But Instagram is brilliant, and all those social platforms are really good to find new people, find new trends, and just see what people at whatever age are looking into. So and you know, everyone's always got their phone with them, so it's not a great stretch to have to do that, I don't think.
Great, thank you. Robin, I'm conscious of the time. We've actually gone past our hour. I think we've pretty much covered everything that's come up on the hub. So unless you've got anything else you wanted.
No, the thing I can always wrap up with, as someone who's worked as a freelancer and as a producer for hire for various different indies over the years, you know, what should be the take home for freelancers today? I mean, clearly everyone's had a really tough year, and getting your break is probably tougher than ever right now. If you were kind of, you know, in a freelance kind of culture right now, what would be your, you know, advice to people who are looking for their next role or looking to make their next break with new shows or new companies or whatever?
I think try and be, because everyone's in the same position. There's a lot of people in that position. I think if you want to kind of stand out, try and make yourself as visible as possible. So make sure you've got a good online presence, and like a LinkedIn and a good CV, not just sending out your CV, but make yourself visible on platforms, because saddos like me are always like looking around, and that's where we see a lot of people. So I think that's important to do. But also I think advice wise, without sounding like an old man, don't feel disheartened and don't give up that you haven't worked for ages and like you don't know what, because I really don't know what to say to people to make them feel better about the fact that there's no wages coming in, because it's heartbreaking. But what I would say is this is going to end, and hopefully I think it's going to end hopefully within the next couple of months. But even before the whole virus thing disappears, television is going to open up again, and it will be more, people are going to be needed sooner rather than later. So if you can bear with, and also start making people aware that you are ready to come back to work. If you're in a position to, don't, if it's going to be dangerous to you, if you're shielding or anything like that, don't. But if you're ready to come back to work and are actively looking to come back to work, I think now is the time to be absolutely make yourself visible, send out as many contacts you can, connect with your old network. And also when I say network, I don't just mean people like me or commissioners or whatever like that, people that you've worked with in the past who might be, you know, like your next level. Like if you were an AP, a producer you might have worked with, and conversely, if you were the AP, maybe a researcher you might work before. Utilize everybody that you know, because they might know of a show that's being crewed up that you haven't heard about yet, and then you can get in there too. And basically share as much information as you can with each other, because I think being part of the community will make you feel better. It'll make you feel more buoyant, and hopefully, when we see our way out of this, you'll all be G'd up, and there'll be lots of shows ready to go to be able to go, come on board, because we need you to film for us, you know, hopefully in a nice country somewhere warm on a really good show, and we can try and put all this crap behind us, because I think we've all had more than enough of it. Now I certainly have, I'm sure other people have as well. So I think it's time for it to end, and for telly to hopefully be a bit more fun again, I hope.
It's a great point to end on.
Yeah, and a suitably upbeat, positive note from the King of Stuff. Sohail, Robin, thank you both very, very much indeed for that. Really interesting. Just to flag up to everyone who's watching, I mean, I think the point about connecting was one of the things we've done with the hub, is to try and create that functionality, make it much easier for you to connect with those people who you've worked. So do please, make use of that, as Sohail said, and just keep us updated on there with what you're doing, insights, experiences, and issues that you're facing, particularly now, and hopefully as things are gearing back to work. And lastly, just to say again that we've got please look out next week for our Share My Telly Job hub takeover, which I think will be really useful, especially for lots of us who are looking to do some flexible working for all sorts of reasons, through, if you're caring for elderly parents or kids, or you just want to have a bit of a work-life balance outside of TV. Anyway, listen, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Sohail. Thanks, Robin. And
thank you, Matt. Cheers, Robin.
Cheers. That's good fun.